Chapter 5. Grandma, I hollered to get her attention, since she looked kind of lost, in spite of the fact she was only 20 steps from her house. Grandma, what are you doing? Hey, Joni, are you back? Since she called me my mama's name, I figured the sun, which was pretty bright, must be in her eyes. It's me, Grandma, Alice. And Eddie's here. Why are you going in your nightgown? And where are you going? Eddie, of course, saw Grandma too, and I'm guessing he thought she was playing some sort of dress-up game, what with being outside in her nightgown and all. Still, in a laughing mood from before, he started cracking up again. But I could hear Grandma wasn't laughing, not at all. Oh dear, she mumbled as I walked closer to her. By then she was looking at the ground like she dropped something real important. Oh dear, her voice sounded all shaky, and I feared she was about to burst into tears or something, so I ran inside to get Mama. Mama helped Grandma back inside, and I took her to her room. She told Eddie and me to go ahead and eat, but even though my stomach was rumbling just a few minutes earlier, I kind of lost my appetite. I popped a dumpling in my mouth and chewed it about 50 times, but it still felt like I was swallowing a biscuit whole. That's when I heard the phone ring, but it wasn't the usual slow ring like a phone from my house. It was more of a fast ringing sound, like the phone tried to ring as usual, but instead just stuttered. Since Grandma's only phone was in the living room, and I knew she and Mama were busy, and because I was hoping the phone call might be from someone like Daddy, I ran to the phone and picked it up, but before I could say anything, I heard a conversation already going on. That's when I remembered Grandma had what's called a party line, which sounds like it should be fun, but it's not really. It's just a phone line shared with her neighbors. Of course, as small as Rainbow is, I guess it's a wonder they don't all have to share just one phone for the whole town. I listened to two ladies gossiping about the grocery store owner's daughter, Maddie, who was out late the weekend before with the son of a guy who works at the post office. Her daddy was madder than a wet hen when she came strolling way past when she oughta. Woo-wee, she might not see the light of day for a while, and who could blame her daddy? After her ma left, that family is such a disgrace. Well, you know the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I had no idea who these ladies were talking about, or even who these ladies were, until I heard in the background the same growling monster noise I heard from the back fence all day, and realized Miss Millie must be one of the ladies on the phone. She wasn't the one gossiping, but she was the one listening to the gossip when she wasn't saying, "Hush up, hush up." The barking, growling monster actually did hush up as Miss Millie offered up her own gossip. Poor Clarence is almost completely blind now, can't see anything except... Alice Ann, Mama's voice shocked me, something fierce, and made me drop the phone. I could hear the ladies on the phone saying something as I tried to put the receiver back. But somehow the phone suddenly seemed coated in butter, and it took me 3 times to hang up the dang phone, with it slipping all over the place. Eddie didn't miss the little show I was putting on with the falling phone. He started laughing so hard he spat out a dumpling. I thought if I tried to act sillier and make Eddie laugh, Mama would forget me listening in on the conversation. Of course, Mama doesn't forget anything. Ever. Young lady, were you eavesdropping on the party line? It was definitely a question, but she didn't wait for an answer. I can't believe it. Have I not taught you any better than that? Mama says stuff like that sometimes. Makes me feel lower than gunk on the bottom of a shoe. Sorry, Mama. I was bored. And the phone rang and... I really didn't hear anything, just some gossip about the grocer's daughter and somebody's son. As soon as those words fell out of my mouth, I knew I was digging myself into a hole. Gossip? Now you're repeating gossip? You know we don't do that. Have you no morals? No, Mama. It was only Miss Millie and some lady. Mama's gasp made me realize that last bit of information wasn't helping my case. I needed to stop digging before I buried myself. You knew who it was, and you still continue to listen. Young lady, you need to march right over there and apologize to our neighbor, Miss Millie. But Mama, I really didn't hear anything bad about her. She was just talking about a guy named Clarence who can't see anymore. Mama stopped talking, which is usually worse for me than when she keeps talking. She took a deep breath. She looked older now than she had when we got to Rainbow just that morning. Mama's a pretty lady, real pretty. People always say so. She's got shiny, wavy brown hair, and she usually wears pulled back in a ponytail. She only wears makeup on a special occasion, but everybody thinks Mama's pretty anyhow. Of course, most people always say how pretty my mama is right before they point out I don't look anything like her. I look like my daddy. Not that Daddy's not nice looking too. Last I saw him, blonde hair and freckles like me, but it's not the same. Now that I'm getting older, I wish I looked more like my mama. Mama exhaled and then announced, tomorrow you will march over to Miss Millie's house and apologize for listening in on her private conversation. Then you will ask her if she needs help with anything. She turned to look at me like she wanted to make sure I was feeling the impact of her words. I was. Maybe she needs something, or the gentleman who is going blind needs something, but you will say you are sorry and offer to help. Do you understand? I swallowed the last bit of dumpling as I mumbled, yes, ma'am. It's a wonder that food went down at all, what with my stomach doing flips just thinking about that growling dog I feared would swallow me faster than any old dumpling tomorrow morning.